Hello, we are so lucky and honored to have with us Professor Inayatullah, who's come to Madrid, and we'll be honored to have a workshop tomorrow on the future of finance with him. Professor Inayatullah is one of the most prominent future studies researchers, UNESCO chair in future studies, and the father of the future technique of causal layered analysis. Did I present you correctly?
Perfectly, thanks so much.
Thank you for being with us. How did you discover future studies, and what made you decide to become a futurist?
I would have been 13 years old, and we had to pass a course. He said you have to read, I think, one book a week. So I started to read science fiction. That was phase one. Then when I was 15, I saw a video by Alvin Toffler. It was a very beautiful video. It's on YouTube. It shows a couple walking in a forest with romantic music. It's very lovely, charming. Then the camera pans and suddenly the couple are two robots. And so just the way he used the future to disrupt how we think about romance and nature, I thought was really forceful. So then when I moved to Hawaii, I started taking courses, and one of the first courses I took was Introduction to Future Studies in 1976. It was by Professor Jim Dater. And he was quite astonishing, startling, always asking us to think differently, think about the future, and challenge how we saw reality.
And this determined your path into the future studies.
I think we grew up everywhere. I left Pakistan when I was 6. We moved to Indiana, then to New York, then to Geneva, then to Bangkok, then to Malaysia. So what I quickly saw everywhere we lived, there was difference but similarity. And so somehow there was a sense I also saw how things were wrong in different ways. So every country I went to, there was always someone everyone hated. And who they hated was very different in every country. And so that's like, why is in every country there's someone who's bad? It became very clear to me, we can't solve problems on the terms of today. The only way out of the problem is to do something else, become something else. So I quickly de-identified with the nation. Because I saw every nation pretends to be good, but really hates someone. And that hating creates identity. So I said, this can't be the world I want to live in. So then future studies is, how do I rethink my identity for a world of me versus them towards us on a planet? And Dater was talking about that. Gaia with technology, with spirit. So that's kind of how I moved in the area.
Great. And many people think that future studies is kind of ethereal and distant, philosophy kind of, apart from the corporate world. How do you see its place in deciding the best corporate strategies thinking of the future?
I know in my work, in the 80s, we had to convince people. I was in my 20s, we were all trying to convince people, do futures, do scenarios, and they would just stare at you. And then there was the first shock, fall of Soviet Empire, right? Then there was the Asian financial crisis, then SARS, then global financial crisis. And then every step of the way, what used to be far away suddenly got closer. And now I have to say every day someone emails me and says, can you please do this project? Can you please help us here? So what was distant has become present. To the rate of change, everyone makes an argument, is no longer stable. It's accelerating in different ways. For some people it's very quick, so some people it's very slow. What we're clear about is the rate of change is unequal. So for corporations, what used to be, let's just do strategy, now it's become, no, we have to become different. The second part of it is every CEO I meet, he or she says, yes, we're doing futures, but I have anxiety. I have anxiety, I have fear, I don't know what to do. How do I operate in this world as a leader? So one is the external world is changing, but the inner landscape of every leader is changing. So it's not just enough to do a 5-year plan or scenario planning, because the person in the role as head of the board or CEO, they're being challenged in dramatic ways. I had one CEO, he came to me, he said after the course, he said, I'm really feeling anxious. So I said, tell me what that anxiety feels like. He goes, I'm a tennis player, but when I go to the match, I never know the court. So I said, okay, what does that mean? He goes, well, the rules of tennis, the rules of the world keep on changing. So I said, okay, as a metaphor, you're the man who plays well on grass court. He goes, yes. Except I don't know if tomorrow I'll have a grass court. So I said, what's the better metaphor for you in your company? He goes, aha, the man who can play on many courts. Grass, clay, cement. I said, okay, if that's your metaphor, what's your new strategy? He goes, okay, I have mathematical intelligence, I don't have emotional intelligence. I don't have cultural intelligence. I don't have spiritual intelligence. So I have to change my entire capability in terms of understanding the future. So most corporations, they've moved from the future hitting them to issue management. How do they take advantage of disruptions? The best corporations I've worked with, they're fantastic as well. We just don't want to adapt to the changing future, whether it's AI, climate change, gender equality. We want to shape the emerging future. And for many CEOs, that's very difficult. I was working with one large energy company. They want to go from fossil fuel to renewable. And we spent many months together, and you can see they were trying to make the shift. Full renewable. And then during the last meeting, the CEO got nervous. He goes, yeah, but what about our profits? And the chair of the board was all female. She just stood up and said, Jeff, make it so, and walked away. And I thought, how did that happen? Then he looked at her, looked at me, looked at everyone, and said, okay. So the board chair had already understood the ultimate transition will be towards the end of fossil fuel, towards renewables. Does she want to wait for the market to shift, or is she going to change the market herself? She made a decision, no, we are going to change the market. So this is when I really get happy when they understand that. To do that, it's self-awareness, awareness of the scenarios and the changing environment. So most corporations I work with, they're all, let's do this. There's no debate.
Yeah.
Can we do it well or poorly? There's no debate about doing futures. And the evidence is there. My colleague Renee Rohrbeck, corporations who engage in foresight, profits have go up 33%. Market capitalization by 200%.
Wow.
Empirical research on leaders who do this, anxiety drops by 33%. Depression drops by 25%. And in terms of employees, we see they're happier because they have purpose now. They know something's wrong, something's changing. They don't know how to talk about it. Everyone senses something. Futures help us take that feeling into concrete alternatives. And once you do that, they go, aha, here's who we are. Here's how we're going to shape the future. And employees have purpose, so of course profits go up.
That's great. How do you see the role of metaphors in becoming the agent of change?
So the previous world was let's go from reaction to proaction. The future happening to us creating the future. And so then you get strategic plans. And the plan says in 5 years we will increase profits by this much. We will centralize or we will decentralize. Whatever the strategy is. Then something happens. And it doesn't happen. So then Drucker didn't say this, but he may have said, he goes, culture eats strategy for breakfast.
Yeah.
So if that's the case, what is culture? Culture is the story. So everyone tells a story about their personal life and about organizations have a professional story. So I was working with one large company, I can't tell you their name. Everyone was in the room. They were asking, why is it that the employees and scientists don't respond when they send out surveys? Why don't they respond to us? So I said, well, tell me as a metaphor, who are you? They said, oh, we're a dying, crippled elephant. And I thought, oh, wow. And then one scientist, he stood up. He said, no, we're not a dying, crippled elephant. I go, fantastic. I said, who are you? He said, no, the elephant is dead. The CEO knows it, but they won't change, so they keep on giving us projects to do. They're fake targets, fake projects, so no one has a metacognition to know it's over. So then I said, okay, where do you want to go? He said, let's become like an octopus. Because we want to get employee engagement. So the octopus, the brains are everywhere. It's fast, fluid, agile. The metaphor helps us understand who we are and where we can go. So the metaphor must link though with strategy, otherwise it's empty words. People are storytellers. The story helps us make the transition. With the Asian Development Bank, we've written this up. I started working with them 6 years ago. We said, who are you? They said, we're an infrastructure bank. As a metaphor, we're Bob the Builder. Always building. We give money for roads. So, okay, what's wrong with that? They go, well, the countries we're giving money for roads, they don't want roads. Yeah. They want well-being. They don't want to see infrastructure just as roads. They want infrastructure as well-being, as health, as community making. So then I said, okay, what do we do then? Who are we? He said, right now, we have knowledge that can't be used. It's knowledge that's like a handcuff. It's only a technical description. I said, what's the better metaphor? They said, knowledge with wings. Knowledge that can help us fly. I said, great, that's just short. Now tell me what that means in terms of identity. We're going to shift from being an infrastructure bank to a knowledge bank. And now all their advertising is, we tailor knowledge solutions for your country. Now they're going further. Our last workshop was on the bank as a gender bank. So we brought in all the gender equity specialists and said, okay, what do we really need to do? They said, well, knowledge is fantastic, but who needs the knowledge? It's very clear, if females in Asia Pacific have equity, profits, national GDP goes up dramatically. So let's become a gender bank. So then the new story was, the old story was counting women, right? You're a better CEO if you have 50% of your board female, right? You can see females everywhere. You're a better CEO. He said, no, we want women count. So not just counting females, but women have power. So women count. So you can see the power in metaphor. Then we said, okay, what is like in the strategy? They said, okay, we're actually doing things differently. So the bank, they just issued a gender bond in Georgia. And that's meant for micro-lending. So it goes from problem, solution, new story, link the story with identity, and link the story with strategy. Now you're playing in a new space.
Oh, that's amazing. Now shifting a little bit towards financial services, what do you think are the potential emerging issues and weak signals that will change risk management, say, in 10 years from now?
In my futures work, my role is, I tell everyone I'm the stupid one in the room. And I'm very clear I am, because everyone I work with is much smarter than me. So my goal is to help their smartness create something new for their company. So I was working at a very large bank recently, and they gave me 20 of their directors. And then on day 2, it became very clear. They said, we actually can't survive as a bank the next 10 years. This is one of the largest banks. There's no way we can survive. They said it, not me. I said, why? They said, tech. Tech is going to eat away at our profits. Why would they come to us when they can enter a peer-to-peer banking where technology is reducing disintermediation, right? So then they said, how do we become a traditional bank to tech? But that became the dramatic solution for them. Tech is going to eat their profits. Then during the workshop, I had 3 of the managers present their new product, which I didn't understand. I didn't understand the word of it. But they looked at risk management, technology, tailored solutions for citizens anywhere. And it was powerful. When the workshop ended, and those 2 people came into me and said, by the way, don't tell anyone. If the CEO doesn't do this, we're leaving. They said, we don't need them. So the second risk is 2 people in your organization can leave and destroy your organization. So I was working in Hong Kong, and it was for 30 leaders. And there was one table, and they were very interesting. So I said, who are you people? And they said, we're Ant. And I said, who is Ant? And they looked at me like I'm an idiot. I said, we're Alibaba's financial services group. They said, why are you at this futures course? You guys are so smart. They go, the chairman sent us here to destroy Alibaba. He said, your only goal is to destroy my company. And so the way to destroy the company is to take a futures course. So what's emerging? What can we do differently? What are the risks and solutions? So I thought that was novel. So one is the threats, obviously tech, obviously from AI, obviously from globalization. What's protecting them is what's protecting universities. Parliaments, countries have regulatory regulations which don't allow X, Y, Z. Imagine you took away regulations in Spanish universities. Everyone's going to move and get a PhD from Google. Why would you need universities? So the regulatory environment is both a blanket to protect you, but if it's thrown away, then other entrants can come in. And the speed of other entrants coming in is a challenge. I was working in Ireland with the Prime Minister's office was looking at the future of energy. And then I asked, why are you doing this? He goes, look, we have a monopoly on energy in Ireland. But I know very well 4 smart kids can destroy the Irish energy system. Because the minister said we're going to deregulate. If we deregulate, then there's a new solution I can't predict. So given the novelty of the solutions that are unpredictable, I have to be fluid, agile, and I have to bring in those young people. So then it becomes your next question, then who are the disruptors, right? Mm. So I do a lot of work with Interpol and international law enforcement. And in one meeting I was asking them, I said, why aren't there criminals in the room? And there was this whole discussion, what do you mean, if there are criminals in the room, it's not like a safe situation. We're law enforcement. And the point was the risk is who's not in the room. And so now I ran a workshop with Queensland Crime and Corruption Commission. And they said, we make one strategic mistake. I said, what's that? We hire good people. And I said, well, you should. You're crime and corruption. No. We need to hire the horrible people. And this became a very interesting conversation. All of us are ethical, future-oriented. We all are very proud of what we do. We don't have evil people in our organization. And it's the evil people that are disrupting. So then we said, okay, what would an ethical hacker look like? Mm. And that started a very important conversation. So it goes from reaction to prevention. Prevention, then we need to ask, is a changing environment, who's in that environment that we need to be part of our strategy? And so that became one of their now new strategies. They shouldn't become evil. But they need to understand those seeking to be more corrupt. So we had a meeting in Singapore with Interpol. And without going into the details, they wouldn't let me even take a picture. They said, no pictures, nothing. You can't even tell us the building you're in. But the one thing they said, ChatGPT and AI, everyone loves it, but the people who love it the most are criminals. Mm-hmm. Yep. And so then the issue for risk or financing is, am I doing this alone or am I doing this in partnership? So this is, how do we create a police ChatGPT that can navigate the dark web? So to do that, you have to partner with the large AI companies. So risk 1 is who's not in the room. Risk 2 is tech. Risk 3 is who am I not partnering with that I can work with to do things differently. And risk 4, we're so confident that we don't have people who destroy our company from within. So those are the 4 I look at.
This is very interesting. And speaking of AI, how do you see the role of AI maybe in creating a more distributed and inclusive prosperity in the future from a financial standpoint?
So our work as futurists is to never answer that question. Because we don't know. But we can develop 4 futures. Future 1 is AI does 90% of what humans do. We just need 10% of the global workforce. Most work is done by AI. We're the managers, we're the designers. People are then playing soccer, going to La Playa, swimming, meditating, involved in love and art. Scenario 2 is AI exacerbates inequity. Those who are already ahead go much further ahead. Those below go further down. So with large organizations, one of the strategies that comes up, we were working with the government of Egypt on the future of AI and farming. So right now we're seeing AI as prosperous to corporations. We need to ensure the farmer in the village has AI. So she needs to know about pricing for her tomatoes, pricing for her shirt she just sold. She needs to know about climate change. She needs to know about partners. So AI has to be used to the poor, to the poor. And that became very exciting to me. One, we're all at the beach. Two, the rich get richer and smarter. Three, AI for the greater good. What's clear is I've run your question through many high schools now. And we say, well, what we can see the evidence is you're in trouble. And they say, yes, by 2030, teaching will disappear. You won't need teachers in any school in the world. So I said, what are you going to do? They said, they came back with me and they said, look, teaching as we know it today will disappear. And that's the finance question.
Yeah.
How will it transform? And so what they told me, transformation one is the teacher asks critical questions. Two, what we all want from a financial manager is the hug. The financial manager, the teacher makes us feel safe in a dangerous world. Three, the teacher is our coach. They work with us to create preferred futures. So this is personalized finances, personalized teaching. So AI does mass teaching, you do the personalization. In my own work in futures, people say, can you give a 2-hour lecture? I said, no, I'll do 5 minutes. They go, well, we paid you for 2 hours. They go, no, you don't need 2 hours. You need 5 minutes content, and the rest is you're very smart, you've not asked the right questions. Futures help us ask the right questions with methods to get change. So that, I think, what AI allows us to do.
So thank you so much
My
for
pleasure.
being with us and for all these lovely explanations, bringing us closer to the future.